What I'd like to do now is show you a case where you're just tracking. So you're just using the system for tracking. Perhaps you don't need to use the portal. And then I'm also going to show you, my third example is going to be package creation. I can kind of do them together. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to initiate another request. Okay, so it's going to populate Hazel's information. And I'm actually just going to whip through this since we already went through a record. I just need to get it added to the dashboard, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with it. So I don't want to use the portal. Don't forget, guys, you can turn the portals off via the specifications, so they just are never turned on at the plan level, or you can shut them off at the participant level. It's entirely up to you. And up here, I'm going to change the status to package sent. Okay. So what I just did is I created a record. I'm not using the portal, and now all I want to do is track it. So this is a good example, or this is what you could do in cases where the distribution request was initiated through the record keeper's website, or perhaps you got all the forms. They mailed back the forms or emailed the forms and you have everything already. You just strictly need to track it. Or maybe you're doing just the 1099, you don't need to do any of that data collection. That's what you would do. So you would just add the record, and then you have the ability to be updating the status as you move along throughout the processing. The third example I want to show you is package creation. So let's say that you're not using the portal. You are creating a distribution package, so effectively a paper package, and you're going to create that to either email it to your participant or plan sponsor or mail it, print it and mail it. So you have scenarios like that where you have to create a package or any other type of template for that matter. Maybe it's a notice, maybe it's a cover letter. It's all going to work the same way. So let's say, for example, that Hazel and Roy are insisting that they get this paper package, or perhaps it's a record keeper form that you need to populate and send to your participants. Remember, last week we went through that template library, so I've already loaded my record keeper forms with placeholders. I've already loaded my cover letters, my force out notice, everything I need for distribution purposes. I already loaded that into my template editor with my placeholders. So that step's done. What I'm going to do at this point is once the distribution records have been added to the dashboard, you can either add the templates on a case-by-case basis, the way that I showed you earlier when I gave you the directive example. Let's go through that again. So under distribution details, this is an individual case. I can come down here and I can attach my templates and create an individual distribution package. Or I can do it in batch. So let's say you've got a bunch of them. We'll do 2, or you could do a select all. What you're going to do is come down here to do a selected, and you're going to use the attach files to distributions. It's actually going to look identical. You're just doing everything via do a selected instead because we have multiple records. So I'm going to click on Attach Files to Distribution and open that up. It's going to show me all my templates. Let's add an American Funds form. I'll add a couple of other things in here. All right, so I've got 3 templates I'm going to be adding. I'm going to click on Attach. That is when the merge process happens. So the software is creating those distribution packages for me. So now I have a couple of options for delivery. 3, actually. The first option, I can download my attachments. So if I need to print and mail them, I can now do that. So here's my zip file. Here's my file for Rory. Here's my file for Hazel. If I open them up, there are my files. So there's everything I added. And remember, because we had placeholders in there, all of the data populated. So when I open these up, they're filled out wherever there were placeholders. So that is an example of how you can batch create them and download them. Now I want to show you how you can send them via email. So if you'd rather send them via email, you can go back to Do as Selected and choose Send Attached Files. And you have the option to send those attachments to the plan sponsor or the participant. No matter who you send it to, when you send those out, it's going to be logged in your audit trail. So I just sent Hazel and Rory their distribution files via email. If I go into my history, I want you guys to see, here's the file that I attached, or the files, plural. So here's all 3 of those files I attached. And here's the email I sent inviting them to download those attachments. So everything's logged in the audit trail. So my plan sponsor or my participant, whoever I sent it to, they're going to get that email inviting them in to go ahead and download those. Another thing that is a good time to show you is being able to batch update the records. So let's just say, for example, I just prepared these packages and sent them out for Hazel and Rory. I don't want to go into each individual record and update them one at a time. I want to batch update them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the records to batch update. I'm going to click on Do as Selected and Update Distributions. If I do that, I have the ability to update the owner, the 1099, and the status. So maybe I don't have to do the 1099s for these records. Maybe I sent everything out. It's going to be up to Joe to finish processing them, and the status is going to be package sent for both of those records. So I'm going to batch update the status. When I click on Update, it's going to go ahead and update all of that information for me. So now my package went out. I've done everything that I needed to do. Now I'm just waiting to get everything back. Don't forget, in last week's session, we went over notifications and alerts. So you can set those up. So if you don't hear anything back for 30 days, for example, you could send yourself a notification saying it's been 30 days, and maybe you remind them or maybe you force them out at that point, as an example. So let's recap. We've covered a lot so far. The first case that we went over was electronic data collection, so that was using the portal to get everything. We logged in as a participant and a plan sponsor to do data collection. The second example I showed you, I just added a record for tracking. I didn't do any data collection. The third example I showed you was adding the record and creating a package. So we're not using the portals, and instead we're preparing a package to send out to the participant or plan sponsor. The last case that I want to
Holly, one question did just come in. Is there a way to set the plan specs for responsible for 1099 button to default as no?
Yes, that's actually done on the Edit Plan screen. So let's do that really quickly. I'll show you guys. Go to Edit Plan. Whatever you have here for 1099, if I turn that to yes, that will be the default answer at the plan level. So every record that you add for that plan will automatically default to no for the 1099. And again, that's something that you can batch update too. So let's just say that you did that after the fact. You can still come back in and batch update them to no.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Not right now.
All right. So last example for data collection before we go into some of that integration stuff we mentioned we'd be covering. I want to show you a combination of electronic data collection with a package. So I had a lot of customers ask for this. This is why we developed it. But basically what happens is when you're adding templates and using the portal, they stay in what we call a live status. So I'm going to open this record and I'm going to set it up so that nothing's verified yet. And we're going to go to step 2. Okay. So you're still going to add your templates the same way, but rather than delivering the package via email or downloading it to mail it, you're going to send the package through the portal instead. And what happens is anytime you add a template, so let's go to Attached Document Templates again. The software will default to what we call a live status. That's what this little check mark is down here. So when I add templates, it's going to add them with a padlock that is unlocked. That means that the template is in what we call a live status. What does that mean? That means that when I attach the template to the record, if the participant or plan sponsor goes in and makes changes to the record, the software is going to be continuously updating that template. So picture's worth 1,000 words. I like to see visuals. I'm going to show you a visual of what I mean. I'm going to click on this American Funds form. So I've only attached it with what I know as the TPA. All right. So in here, I've got my address, my plan name, effective date of separation from service, my distribution type. So wherever I had placeholders, the software populated information. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to log back in as Rory. So we're going to pretend that we're initiating this for the first time. Change the status back to needs participant input.